Hello there, people of the internet. I'm out here on the gun range to, well, if I'm being honest, I don't know what I'm doing out here. But I am making this video. Really, I have no answer for what I just said on that last statement. But I am making this video because I have a little story to tell you guys. And first time this happened, I was like, yeah, alright, that's definitely not going to be a normal mindset. But I had the same situation, different situation, but the same kind of outcome happen again. So this right here is a Remington 870 pump action shotgun, and this is something that a lot of people use for home defense situations. And before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and send some lead downrange with this bad boy. This was actually my father's. He bought it brand new back in the 1980s, I believe. So this one is actually a pretty decent quality. Modern Remington 870s have diminished significantly in quality, though. I have seen the modern ones, and they don't make them like they used to. So this is a 1 ounce slug, 3-inch Magnum shell, and this right here is gonna send 1 ounces of lead, just one solid ounce hunk of lead downrange at our steel target at about 1,750 feet per second, and we have ourselves a nice long barrel on this Remington 870, which is why I chose it, and we're just gonna smash it right into our steel. Here, let me go ahead and turn this camera a little bit. You guys probably won't see me all that well, but you'll get a good view of the steel. Ow! God, this thing is like a cannon whenever I shoot these freaking giant slugs out of this thing. But, man, that was actually kind of fun. I wish I had another one, but that was my last slug. Anyway, maybe I should have used that on a watermelon or something. But I digress. Back to the topic of this video. I was talking to somebody. He was an older gentleman, probably in his 50s or so. And whenever we were talking, he was like, yeah, I have some Mossberg, maybe a Maverick, some kind of pump-action shotgun. I have that for defense. I keep it by my bedding. I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good standard self-defense shotgun. What loads do you run? And you know what he told me? I swear to God, this is exactly what he told me. I'm not making this up. You can't make this up. He told me he keeps it unloaded. And I'm like, what? How do you expect to fend off a home invader or some kind of trespasser or whatever your situation is? How do you expect to stop that situation with an unloaded firearm? And he says, I'm gonna do this, and that'll send them running. And I'm like, so you're basing your entire self-defensive preservation off of the sound and hoping that they decide, oh, this guy is armed, it is time to leave. And he's very insistent. He's like, yes, they will absolutely go. They will leave. They will run away. They'll scatter like ants. And I'm like, all right. Yeah. So, some people definitely would. I mean, I have seen people run just because of the most minor hint of danger. But then I have seen just plenty of times where people will literally be being shot at, and they will, enter fight or flight, and they will go into fight mode, and they will start shooting back. So if you go like this and you make your scary shotgun noise, and they decide, not only am I not going to run away, but this guy is armed and I'm going to take him out as quickly as possible, now you have an armed assailant or possibly even armed assailants who have entered fight mode instead of flight mode, and you are completely defenseless against that. Do not rely just on the sound of a pump-action shotgun going clack, clack, and hoping that they run away. As a matter of fact, my father had a very similar ideology for the longest time. As a matter of fact, he still kind of does, and I'm trying to kick him out of that, where he has a 12-gauge shotgun for defensive purposes, and he has some birdshot, like cheap Walmart Target load birdshot, and that's just what he has. And I mean, inside of a house below 15 yards, yeah, that's all right. But once you get outside of that house, like that 15 yards, like there's plenty of instances where people have been hit by birdshot and they walk away completely unscathed or can continue to fight. I mean, a heavy jacket will stop birdshot if you get out past a certain distance. So birdshot, especially out of a shorter barrel shotgun with just too much spread, It just simply does not have the stopping power necessary. But my father's philosophy is as soon as he pulls that trigger and they hear the first bang, well, they're going to scatter and run away. He says people like that are just cowards. They're going to try to break in and then they're going to scatter. And then I showed him some police footage of, police officers lighting up this guy, oftentimes with several magazines of ammunition required, and the guy is hyped up on drugs or something, and he's not going down, and he has a gun of his own, and he starts firing back. And man, just those kind of situations, you really cannot prepare for something like that. But the best way to prepare is to have something that you can actually use as a viable tool to be able to handle that situation. Do not rely on sound scaring off people. Nowadays, people just have such a lack of courtesy, a lack of, what's the word I'm looking for? A lack of empathy whenever it comes to the existence of human life, including their own. They don't value it at all. And oftentimes, just for the sake of ego, hey, this guy started shooting at me, so instead of running to cover to preserve my own life, I will go ahead and start shooting back, even if I am in the wrong. We see that way more often than we should. But we see just these acts of people not caring about self-preservation. They care more about taking you down than making themselves not get taken down. We do see people out there that run, but man, way too often we see people who decide not to run and who decide to step up and actually get buried into the fight, whether or not they get taken out. And oftentimes these people that step up into the fight have a much better advantage than the people who are trying to defend. Yes, if you're defending a specific area and you're at home, then you have the home court advantage. But if there's multiple assailants, hey, now there's just you versus multiple people. If these multiple assailants are armed with better firearms, like if a bunch of dudes show up with a couple of ARs or some, Glocks that have 33 round magazines or something like that, even if you're in a banned state, because criminals don't listen to laws. If you're dealing with something like that, then all of a sudden your 3-shot hunting shotgun with birdshot is not that great of an option. And once you go like this, loading that one round into the chamber, guess what? You're gonna just get this hailfire of lead coming at you, because they're going to realize, hey, this guy's armed, he needs to be taken out, and he needs to be taken out right now. You might have some guys that run, but you might have some guys who don't run, and that is not a situation that you want to put yourself in. So that was the second time I came across a story like this. The first time I came across a story like this, I was actually doing some instructing. I'm a certified firearms instructor, and I instruct every now and then. But I was doing some instructing, and I had this elderly lady in the class, and she had a 6-shot 22 long rifle revolver, and she just wanted some coaching on how to use it. I got no problems with that. Multiple times I've taken people to the side, and they want some coaching on how to properly and effectively use their firearm, and I'm like, all right, yeah, that's fine and dandy. I got no problems with that. We have our class firearm that we actually certify people with, and that is what we train. But then after that class firearm and whatnot, we're like, all right, if you want to break out your own personal firearm, now we are just doing our own separate thing. We will teach you how to effectively use that, and that's just what we do. Well, she broke out a 22 long rifle revolver, and I'm like, all right, yeah, for a little old lady like this, a double action 22 long rifle, that's just fine. Well, she had blanks inside of this thing. Like, she purposefully went to the hardware store and got blanks for it, and I'm like, why would you do that? She's like, well, I don't actually want to hurt anybody. I just want to be able to make the noise to scare them off. And same verse of what I just said, just repeated. You don't want to make noise to scare someone off, because if that person enters fight mode instead of flight mode, now you're defenseless, and you're up against a potentially armed and drugged up assailant, and maybe even multiple assailants at that. And maybe they have a vehicle, maybe they're mobile, maybe you don't have the home court advantage, maybe you're in a parking lot somewhere and you don't know the area. I mean, insert scenario here. You do not want to rely on something as simple as sound to be able to drive off whoever is attacking. As a matter of fact, you want to I will acknowledge that sound, it could be useful. Like, if you are in a situation where you're inside of a building, and let's say you have a short barrel AR, and there's just this massive fiery concussive blast that comes out of this thing, and you had a group of dudes, once you start firing that thing inside of, say, your living room, and you just, like, start lighting the thing up like the 4th of July, then that might get some people deterred, and they might decide to run. But something like this, or something like the quiet pew shot of a 22 short blank, that's the word I'm looking for, a 22 short blank, that probably won't scare them off. It might frighten them a little bit, but at the same time, I would not bet my life on them running off. At the very least, if you want to do a less than lethal option like that, load 1 round of a blank. This way you pull that trigger and you still have 5 shots of actual 22 inside of your revolver cylinder. That would be my suggestion if she insisted on it. Well, of course she did not insist on it. We very much turned her around on that subject. But load 1 round of blank. This way you can fire, and the legality behind warning shots is its own thing. But if they don't run off, now you at least have 5 shots of 22 long rifle that you can use to defend yourself. Your shot placement better be good. They better not be hyped up on drugs, and there better not be more than 1 or 2 people. Otherwise, you're going to be in quite the situation. Don't rely on sound. Don't rely on the assailants getting scared and running off, because that is something that is very, very much becoming less common nowadays. Ow, my shoulder hurts. I'm like resting it right here on my chair. Whenever I had leaned down into this thing, I pressed it too much up against my actual collarbone instead of the actual ball of my joint. And boy, am I paying for that now, because holy crap. Well, thanks for watching, folks. I do appreciate your time. Hopefully you're not someone who just decides to try and scare people off, and hopefully you having actual means of defense. And yeah, it could get bad quickly, and you do not want it to get bad. If you are in a situation where you need something like this to protect your life, don't count on the enemy just getting scared and running away, because they might not. So let me know what you guys' thoughts are down below in the comments, I suppose. That being said, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, description below, link to all sorts of stuff. Go ahead and go check that out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day, and I'll see y'all on the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.